Okay, guys, we are going live, or we are live, I should say. I'm just going to give people a chance to join the chat, and I'll just adjust my phone camera here and make sure that we are properly situated. If the audio is good, somebody let me know. Thanks, buddy. A-grade tech. Perfect. Yeah. Okay, guys. So the way that we're going to do it is, I know some of you guys are already course members, and some of you are just subscribers on YouTube and so on and so forth. So the way I'm going to be structuring this is I'm going to kind of talk a little bit about the topic at hand. And then I'm going to check in with all of you guys that are course members. And also, if you've trained with me before, as far as I'm concerned, you're an Uber course member. So I'll definitely be able to answer your questions, so on and so forth. Caitlin just went. Sorry, guys. This phone's very. Just want to say thank you for Otto's recent board and train. We picked him up yesterday. I'm glad he's been amazing. Just stay on top of all the work that we showed you, and that's part of the reason for this live, is I want to check in with all of you guys that are training with us online and in person, and I want to make sure you guys are going to continue to be successful, because this isn't, when we train dogs, it's not like reprogramming a computer. It's something that you actually have to maintain. You have to constantly give the dog the right input and remove anything bad that crops up. It is an ongoing maintenance process, and a big thing with the training is once the dog understands, it's the maintenance. And a lot of people fail on the maintenance because they view the dog as some sort of like a robot, basically. Well, he knows it, so he'll do it. And it's like, no, he won't. Believe me, you got to show him that it's in his best interest to do it. You've got to maintain the good behavior. It's not going to maintain itself. And there's so many people, they struggle with that. Well, you trained him, so he should be perfect forever, and I shouldn't have to do any of the things that you've told me to do, and everything should work out well. Unfortunately, that's not the way it works. So this is why I like to have ongoing dialogue with my students and with people that train with us, just to make sure that they continue to have the success that they've paid to have. So that's going to be part of that's going to be a big part of the back end of this live. But I mean, since I got 50 of you guys in here, by the way, like that video, because the more you like it, the more people are going to see it. And I want to make sure that everybody that's training with me right now tunes in, and then other people that aren't training, like I said, I think you're going to get value from this either way. What do you think about a 4-month-old shepherd that's only 19 pounds? Since we have time, I'll answer that. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Your dog's weight is what it is. As long as you don't see bones and hips, don't worry about it. They're shepherds in all shapes and sizes. You get big ones, small ones. It doesn't matter, guys. People get so obsessed with weight. If your dog doesn't look like it's dying, don't worry about it. Okay, so let's talk about the topic at hand. And what brings me to this is I see so many people, talking about e-collar training. I see a lot of trainers around me taking up the e-collar. As I mentioned before, when I started training dogs in this region, there was really nobody using the e-collar beyond the hobbyists that did the dog sports and the hunting dogs and stuff. There was nobody really offering that to the public. And of course, in the last, I'd say 3-4 years, there's been a huge boom in the use of the e-collar and the prong collar. I see more and more people using them. And unfortunately, I see a lot of people using them not very well, because they're placing all their belief in the tool and they really don't know anything about the training. So basically, doggy's bad, they zap them, or they pull them on the pinch collar, and they hope for the best. don't get me wrong. Sometimes, you know, if you got a smart dog, he's relatively willing to please. You know, I I can't tell you how many times I've heard somebody say, "Oh, my dog, you know, he's starting to get a little aggressive, or he's not listening, so I bought an e-collar." And I'm like, "You did what? You bought an e-collar?" It's like me saying, "You know, I need a new barn, so I bought a skill saw." It's like, yeah, I don't know how to build a barn. I'm not a carpenter. I might have the saws. I can cut wood with that saw. Can I cut it very well? Can I get all the planes and all the angles? Can I put everything together properly? Can I make a plan that it's all going to come together properly? No, it's going to look like a piece of garbage if I build something because I don't know what I'm doing. The e-collar is the same. The prong collar is the same. If you don't know what you're doing with these tools, they aren't solutions to your behavioral problems, right? They are something that's made. Let me give you guys an example, okay? I always like to go to the horse stuff because I don't know much about, I know enough about horse training to know I don't know enough about horse training, okay? I got this gelding. He's a spooky guy. He's about, I don't know, 1,200 pounds. I took this, I got on this guy. I have, you know, he's had some training, so on and so forth. Have saddled him up, put a bit in his mouth as he's been trained. The, can't remember the name of the bit. Regardless, bit, reins, all that stuff. And I got on him under the instruction of my trainer, and I started doing circles with the gelding. And I said, oh my God, if this guy wasn't here telling me what to do, making sure that I'm guiding this animal properly, this bit wouldn't do anything for me. This bit would actually probably hurt me more than it would help me. The e-collar is no different, right? Of course, the consequences aren't death like they are on a horse if you screw up, but e-collar is, you've got to be careful, guys. You've got to be careful. If you don't introduce it properly, which is what my online course, and if you've trained with us, you know how many people come to train with me, they bring their e-collar day one. I'm like, put that away. We're not using that for a couple weeks because we lay the foundation properly. I have a mini educator. Show yourself at 80. Don't hurt my dog as a shepherd feels it. No. Okay, listen. It's not about whether it hurts your dog or it doesn't hurt your dog. That really has nothing to do with whether you use it or you don't. At the end of the day, if it didn't cause some level of physical discomfort, both minor and major, it would be pretty useless, as with all negative reinforcers and positive punishers. This idea, this is another thing that a lot of people do with the e-collar. Oh, it doesn't hurt. Look, zap, zap, zap. I have an e-collar video where I put 2 e-collar boxes on my neck, and I give it to myself at 100 on each box. And believe me, it hurts. It's quite unpleasant. But if you watch the video, you see kind of where I go with it. So anyways, as I've been saying, I notice a lot of people, they are e-collar, prong collar jockeys. They know enough to put the stuff on their dog, but their training doesn't go beyond the tool. And the tool, unfortunately, is not going to train your dog. Your training is going to train your dog. And if your training completely relies on the tool, it's all going to fall apart. And I see a lot of trainers, unfortunately, and a lot of owners, they use the tool like this, and their results are always very limited. And you can see in the dog's body language, not that I'm a body language Nazi, right? Like, I don't care if your dog's tail is wagging furiously. But you can see in the dog's body language, he's confused, he's scared, he's stressed. He doesn't know what to do because all he's been getting is shocks on the collar, and nothing has really been introduced to him properly in a way that makes sense. And unfortunately, this is the mistake that a lot of people make, is they have a problem, they say, I'm going to use the e-collar to fix this problem. Unless you know what you're doing, don't do it. The other thing that I see, unfortunately, a lot of is people, they do a little bit of training with the collar. Okay, so I'll give them this. They do. I've had people, they work for me. They used to work for me. You know, they did some months with me, and then they take the e-collars, and now they're doing the e-collar training. And it's like some of these guys, man, it's like, man, you're really not helping the dogs in your work. It's not very nice. It's not very nice because the training doesn't go beyond the collar, right? I'm not saying e-collars don't make a huge difference. There's a reason I use them, because you can go a lot farther, a lot faster with an e-collar. And faster doesn't mean you know, a lot of people say, oh, faster, you're just looking for the easy way. It's not the easy way. If you're doing it properly, right, it's the clear way. The training goes fast because it's clear, right? I have a dog that can be completely off leash because my training was super clear, right? Now, what a lot of people do is they just basically shock the dog every time he leaves, so then the dog just hovers around them terrified, afraid to leave. And then they say, oh, look, man, he's off leash trained. Well, no, you just created basically a roving fence around you and the dog's terrified to leave you. I don't like to see that either. So suffice to say that e-collars and prong collars are wonderful tools when used properly and used as a part of a well thought out training system. But if your thing is that you're going to train the dog with the tool and that's all your game is, then your game is severely limited and you need to elevate your game because you're not doing the dog any services and you're not, you know, if you're actually taking people's money, you're not doing them any service. You really have to understand why it works. When you understand why it works, then you're able to duplicate what you do with those devices with other things. So now people ask me, well, can you train a dog without an e-collar, without a prong collar? I say, sure I can. Now, depending on the dog, that might be more difficult. So, for instance, I love to use the prong collar for all my foundation work, you know, with the dog before I use the e-collar because, in my opinion, the pressure exerted by the prong collar is more easy for the dog to understand. So it's basically like training wheels. And I use it to introduce the dog to all the behaviors that I want him to learn, of course, in combination with rewards. And I use the prong collar for a variety of things. You can also use it to punish the dog for specific behaviors like pulling on the leash and being reactive, so on and so forth. The thing is that a lot of people basically slap the prong collar on the dog and basically allow the dog to drag them around with the prong collar. And, you know, they say, well, he's not dragging as hard, so it must be a success. And I see so many dogs being desensitized to the prong collar. So many dogs actually, you know, if they have a behavioral problem, it's being made worse with the prong collar because people don't really understand what it is, how to use it properly to suppress behavior, to enhance behavior, so on and so forth. So I see like so many people, look, you know, at first, when I first started using these tools and offering this type of training, I said, man, I wonder when people are going to be smart enough that they start to use these because these tools greatly enhance the training process. But now I almost, I wish people had stuck with the cookies only training because honestly, I see so many people misusing the tool. That being said, those tools save lives. And I will say that. So I'm not going to be one of those people, well, it would be better off without them. Listen, there are so many dogs whose lives have been saved with e-collars and prong collars. And I don't really know any dog that's been killed with an e-collar or a prong collar. I know plenty of dogs that have been killed, though, because they have behavioral problems that make them impossible to live with or extremely dangerous. So I'll put it to you guys that way. But I'm saying don't be an e-collar and prong collar jockey. Understand why it works. Understand how it works, and then you'll be able to duplicate it with other things. You'll be able to set the foundation properly. And that's a big part of my online training. And if you train with me in person, my training is I make you understand, why is this working? Why does he respond to this? It's not just because I zap him. That's not why it works, right? It works because we're actually going through a learning process with the dog. We're teaching him in a way that all organisms learn. We're making pressure in some places. We're making a release of pressure in other places. We're rewarding in some places. We're enhancing desirable behaviors and removing undesirable behaviors. This is dog training. And you can do it without tools to some degree. Now, of course, there are some dogs where it's dangerous to do it without tools. And then, of course, the big thing with the e-collar, people say, well, if you can train without it, why don't you? And I say, because why would I use a horse and buggy when I can drive a Ram 1500 Eco Diesel, right? That's what I've got. So that's what I used as an example. You know, yeah, sure, you can still get to point A. You can go from point A to point B in the horse and buggy, but you get there a lot more efficiently and a lot more easily when you're using the Ram Eco Diesel, okay? And the e-collar for a skilled trainer, and I say skilled, is like that, okay? So if you're, you know, someone from the 1800s, and all you know is the horse and buggy, stick with the horse and buggy. Don't jump into eco diesel until you've taken your driving test and maybe got some education on how to use it, right? And it's the same with the e-collar. Now I will say, because there are many places where e-collars and prong collars are banned, and people always bring this up. In Europe, we cannot use the e-collar because it is abuse, right? You hear this nonsense all the time. And I always kind of laugh because I say, who do you think taught us how to use the e-collar here in North America? Whose seminars do you think we went to, right? We learned from German trainers. We learned from European trainers. Who do you think sells the e-collar still, right? There's a very well-known brand being sold from Belgium right now. Where do you think we buy prong collars? Herm Sprenger, right? Where do you think that comes from? It comes from Germany. So spare me the nonsense. The problem with the German guys, right? The problem with the European guys is, listen, there are some hardcore trainers in Europe, right? I'm going to be going to a seminar for some hardcore. I like to go with these world level guys. They've been to the top levels, okay? There's always something to learn from these guys. They use the e-collar. They use the prong collar. They use the leash. They use their hand. They use their foot. They use everything because they know how the dogs think. It doesn't matter what you use, but of course some things make it more clear for the dog. Some things make the process more expeditious. So of course you will use those things. So suffice to say, the problem with, I find with a lot of European guys, especially when they know, they don't say, like they're very quiet. They'll be like, they'll pass, so the crazy animal rights activists and the girls with the pink hair. No offense if you've got pink hair and you're watching, but I hate to say it, a lot of these girls have pink hair. Anyways, the girls with the pink hair are like, oh, it's abuse, right? They've never trained a dog, of course. And then, of course, there's always some lady with her positive only trained border collie. See, look, you don't need any of these devices. And then the border collie's healing next to her for the hot dogs, and that's her evidence, right, that it all works. So, you have to understand this dynamic. And the animal rights activists, it's really easy for them to pass laws in Europe because all they have to do, and even here, is lobby the politicians. And for a politician that doesn't know anything about animal training, it makes complete sense, right? Oh yeah, that sounds terrible. Versus, oh yeah, just treats and love. That's all you need. Oh, okay. Yeah, those people are abusive. You know what? Let me pass this law. I'm going to look good. Why would I oppose this? Doesn't make any sense. They have their junk science and all this type of stuff, cherry-picked studies and all this stuff. So I always kind of laugh when people say, in Europe it's illegal because we know better. Yet they can never show you better. And the guys that are still winning in Europe, that are in the top on the podium, right? In IGP and all these things, we know how these guys are training because they come here and they do seminars. So it's not some big mystery, right? They'll never show you though. They'll never show you how they're training because they know better, right? Unfortunately, in Europe, you get a lot of competitors. People will call on them. Other competitors will call on. It's a dirty game. Anyways, point being, we use the e-collar and the prong collar here in the training process, not with the little tiny puppies, but with the young adult and adult dogs, because it is the most expeditious form of learning, and I'm an efficient person. I don't like to waste time. Can you do it with a set of long lines and choke chains? For many dogs, yes, you can. Will it be as good, and will it take as short a period of time? No, it won't, okay? So, one more thing before I start getting to the questions. So, I will say this, okay? I know there's a lot of you guys in Europe, you're in places where it's illegal. I think also in some places in Australia, it's illegal to use the e-collar or the prong collar. I have it on my list to make a training for you guys where I will talk about how I would train if I didn't have these devices, okay? For sure, it's a much more involved process. And unfortunately, the results aren't quite as reliable in my opinion, but it can be done, as anything can be done, right? The problem is always that you have to kind of be a little bit more into the mind of the dog. When you use the tools, it does, even if you're using them properly, if you're not so experienced in the dog training world, and my system is very easy because I assume that you don't know anything. That's why I try to make my system as easy as possible without hurting the animal. Right, if that makes sense. I mean, you can make it too simple, and then you're actually causing I think you're doing the animal a disservice. So I make it as easy as possible for the owner and for the dog in order for you guys to both achieve synergy and success as fast as possible. And I think that's part of the reason why we got so big so fast and why our training's so popular, because it's actually, as dog training goes, it's pretty easy, okay? Now, I will say this. So in those places where these tools are banned, they're either still used, just undercover. I think Germany's like second overall in the world for sales on the e-collar. So am I telling you to break the law and to get one and to put one of those e-collar covers that they make now for e-collars, or to buy one of those really low profile e-collars that you can't even tell if it's an e-collar or a flat collar? I'm not telling you to do that. You have to decide what's best for you and your family. Of course, here at Shield Canine, we never advocate breaking the law. But anyways, where was I? Oh, yes. So now what the training is happening in these places, you know, when they're training the dogs. For the real training, especially with the real dogs, with the strong dogs that have hardness, that have desire, that have aggression, God forbid, right? What's happening with these dogs is they're going back to the old school methods. And if you think e-collars and prong collars are rough, the old school methods are quite rough. I'm not going to get into the old school methods right now. But they're a lot less efficient, a lot more stressful, and you know, thank God we have e-collars and prong collars here in North America. And in many places still in the world, they are used. So if you can use one, use one. If you can't, you have to make some decisions for yourself. And I will be trying to come out with some content. Again, there's so much content to shoot. I will be coming out with content for you in relation to not being able to use those devices. You are going to have to put pressure on your dog. So there are some places like Sweden, for example, I think it's completely illegal to correct or put pressure on the dog in any way. Good luck to you. I mean, you're living in a country where, unfortunately, insanity rules. So, you know, do what you got to do. All right. So what I'm going to do is we are going to go through the questions, and I'm going to give priority to people that have signed up for my online course. So if you've trained with me, or if you sign up for the online course, make sure that you mention that first in your comment or question, and then I'll read it and I'll give priority. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to scroll up, because I know a bunch of you. It's legal, Dilgash, relax. Let's see here. I am from Belgium originally, and as far as I know, e-collar and prong collars are fine to use. Oh, you know what? The e-collar manufacturer I was talking about is in Holland, not Belgium. I don't know that they are allowed in Belgium. You got to double check that. I'm pretty sure prong collars are, but I would check the e-collars, because I know there was a big bid to ban them there. When you have a dog who is fear reactive towards something in the environment, how do you work through this in the moment? Add distance, e-collar. So the solution is never a tool, right? So if you have to say e-collar, then it's like, e-collar what? E-collar how? The solution to fear reactivity is never a tool. So, Miles, if you say my online course is incredible, I'll assume you've taken it or you're in it. No one should have finished the online course by now. So, the online course, guys, is a 2-week course. A 6-week course. So I would expect at most you are 2 weeks through. Do not skip steps. Do not skip videos. Don't jump ahead because your dog knows. My God, if I had a penny for every time someone says, yeah, my dog knows all that, so I'll just go ahead and get on to the level 2 stuff, or I'll go on to week 4. It's like, dude, you are doing yourself a disservice. You are doing your dog a disservice. 99% of the time, when I hear my dog already knows all that, and I go and I test the dog's knowledge, right? Something as simple as sit, usually I find that the dog doesn't know, right? The dog being able to sit in your kitchen for a hot dog does not equate to your dog understanding sit, all right? The dog being able to sit occasionally, outside if you pull on his leash doesn't equate to him knowing sit. Teach your dog to sit properly before you progress your dog. Teach your dog to do everything properly before you progress your dog. If you skip steps, you're going to see what happens to your dog and to you and to your training and to your reliability. Who wants a dog walking next to them looking like it was beaten with a 2x4? Do you want that? I don't. I want my dog to look as happy as possible, and not just look, feel, right? I understand there's different body languages, right? You'll have some dogs that are more naturally, they just don't look super excited all the time. And then you have some dogs that are very sensitive and everything's scary, the cars are scary, the people are scary, everything's scary. So of course they look a little bit afraid all the time. But then you have the dogs that are of course naturally happy, outgoing, confident. I like to maintain and enhance and build the dog as much as possible in the training process without of course compromising performance. And that's the big thing with dog training. The more you can get, the more control you can get, and the more reliability you can get without sacrificing, the emotion of the dog, it's important, right? As I've already said, you've seen me with my personal dogs, with my sport dogs, both in town, right, just like normal obedience, and doing the sport work. And of course, in the sport work, you see they're much more adrenalized, much more excited. I don't look for that level of body language in just regular everyday obedience. But I don't want my dog crawling on the ground with his tail touching his belly. That's not good either, right? So yes, when you have a dog who is fear reactive towards something in the environment, how do you work through this in the moment? So number one, I correct the fear reactivity. So guys, this course that I released, I have not included yet dealing with behavior. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a behavior modification add-on, which is going to be very inexpensive for people that already bought the course. I'll make it something, just a cheap add-on for you guys. If you haven't, I'm going to make it a package. So you need to, the obedience for any dog that has behavioral issues, the obedience training that I do in the course is the same that I do with those dogs. So you must do that obedience training. But on the flip side, I'm going to say this, when it comes to any kind of reactivity, so the loose leash walking is the keys to success, okay? And it's the most underestimated behavior. I've said it before and I'll say it again. Everybody that has problems with behavior issues on the walk, their dog pulls them on the leash. Oh no, Haz, I did your thing. I did the pop thing. He doesn't pull me. I guarantee you, if he's reactive, he's pulling you, right? He's pulling you constantly. There's constant tension. Maybe you don't notice it because you're used to a lot of pulling and now maybe there's a lot less pulling, but I guarantee you he's pulling you. When you say 2 fingers, I'm going to use 2 fingers to hold this leash under every circumstance, I guarantee you're going to pull me. I don't care if he's pulling me because there's another dog, or as I like to say, because, some magical angel is coming down from the sky. There is no reason ever in this world to pull me. If you pull me, we're going to have a problem. If you stop your fear reactive dog from pulling you, you are going to have 99% less problems than you have when he's pulling you. Now, you're going to have a moment with your fear reactive dog, okay, where he's going to see something he's afraid of. And because you've corrected him for pulling, he's going to kind of be like, he'll hackle up, he'll look a little bit insecure and scared. And you'll say, hey man, leave it. And then he has a choice at that point, right? He has a choice and he'll say either, no, I'm not going to leave it. I'm going to go and do what I always do, in which case you must punish the behavior, of course. So for me, the punishment is no, and a very swift and hard check on the lead. Very swift, very hard, very loud no to mark the behavior, okay? Oh, usually if it's a fear reactive dog, they'll be like, yeah, and they'll be showing a suppressive body language, right? A little bit like, oh, right? No problem. Then I'll act like nothing happened and we'll carry on. And the next time we see something, or if possible, I'll go back to the thing, not like all the way to it, but close to it. And I'll say to him, again, hey man, it's your choice. I don't keep the dog close to me. Okay, you know what? Let me back up a step. Again, this is going to be a course, but I'm just trying to help you right now. If you get close to something, let's say there's another dog coming and he's becoming reactive and you punish him for the reactivity, that's fine as long as the behavior ceases. Do not try to hide the dog. And this is what a lot of people do, right? My loose leash walking course is so important for this, right? You must follow the loose leash walking. You must do the loose leash walking and then all the other behaviors as well that we train. You cannot allow the dog, you cannot try to hide the dog, like whether it's making him sit, look at you, down, whatever. Do not do that. Doesn't work. Actually makes the problem worse. Maintain the loose leash. When I have a dog who's reactive, you know what I do? The second I see something coming that I know he's reactive to, even if I'm healing with him, I say, go buddy, go, you're free, break, right? Remember the break signal? Break. Dog's free now. He's on a loose leash. It's his choice now. I like to give dogs responsibility, and I like to give them choices within their ability. So now you're free. You're on your loose leash. The only rule is, of course, you must not pull me. That's it. It's a pretty easy rule to maintain. So now he sees the thing that he's scared of, or reactive or excited by. And now he has a choice. Either pull me, get corrected, and of course I will correct very significantly because I know he's going to be more aroused by the thing that's there, or don't pull. And usually you'll find with the 99% of reactive cases, when they don't pull, they can't react. It's like you've taken their power away. It's like Superman's kryptonite, right? He's like, I got no power. I can't do anything. I can't pull, so I can't get myself from point A to point B. So he stays there, and he's kind of like, he'll be insecure about it. No problem. First, remember, fear reactivity is a fear-based behavior. When you correct the reactivity, all the show goes away, and what are you left with? You're left with fear and insecurity. And when I'm left with fear and insecurity, and the dog says, okay, well, I can't be aggressive, so what am I going to do? I'm going to go into avoidance. No problem. I let him avoid. And then I take him through the situation over and over again until he understands that dog isn't going to do anything to you. That person isn't going to do anything to you. I won't even let them touch you. Your behavior determines the result of what occurs. And now the trust develops. And this only happens 3-4 reps. The dog understands. He's like, my God, you are in control of everything. You're keeping me safe. I can trust you. I can rely on you. Right? And now he doesn't have to be afraid. And now he can start thinking about other things. So once I have my loose leash walking on point, and it's really easy to do, but again, a lot of people don't do it properly. Under any circumstances, dogs, people, kids, bikes, whatever, 2 fingers. If you don't have 2 fingers on that leash, you're being pulled. If the leash is a straight line, you're being pulled. A nice dip in the leash. He doesn't have to walk next to you. In fact, I don't want him to walk next to you. I want him to be in front of you, behind you, beside you. I want him to be a dog, as much as a dog can be a dog on a 6-foot lead. Right? I want him smelling the ground. I want him looking at different things. Let him be a dog, but teach him. There's behaviors that are acceptable and behaviors that are not. And usually with the fear cases, what happens is once you remove the bluster and all the show, now they're left with the avoidance, and then they start to make a few good choices, maybe even on accident in the beginning, and I immediately praise them. Good boy. Oh, look how well you did. And I take on the role of a supportive father, right? He's my baby. He doesn't understand, right? He's like a child with mental health issues. And really, that's the best analogy I can come up with. I used to be in social services, so I know how children with mental health issues are, right? In many cases, they mean well. They just don't know how to control their emotions. And they need an adult to provide them with that guidance and with the clear black and white of right and wrong, right? And that's your dog. He has the emotions that he has because of the genetics that he has, which informs his temperament and his proclivity towards specific behaviors. You need to be there to guide him to the right things and to help him avoid the wrong things. You must be very firm in punishing the bad, but you also must be there to support him when he starts searching for alternatives, if that makes sense. That was already too long, sorry. Is that supposed to be a joke, Trish? Trish, I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about. If you're talking about the pink hair, it was not a joke. I have a 6-month-old GSD. What would be the best prong collar for him? I don't know. It depends on the size of your dog. Elite member. I have a field lab who is not into tug. Our plays with fetch. He is a maniac on fetching a ball or bumper, even though our fetch games are fairly formal. Yes. So Steve, that's a very good question. So let me tell you something. Sometimes what I find with the field training is it's all about fetch, right? So of course, and I think you guys are really on again, I'm not a field expert. I'm not a field training expert. You guys are really about the dog not having a soft mouth. Yes. So I would say that if tugging with the dog will mess up your field training, do not tug with your dog. But what I would do is I wouldn't formalize it. So when he comes back, instead of making him heel right away and sit next to you with the bumper in his mouth, the second he comes back, I'll clap my, hey buddy, and I'll pat him up, and I'll let him be a little bit crazy. I'll let him jump on me with the toy in his mouth. I'll pat him, I'll give him belly scratches, and he'll have the toy in his mouth, and then I'll say, okay, out, and then I'll just throw it. And don't throw it super far because you'll get him tired if you keep rewarding him like that. So no, you don't have to play tug. The reason why I like to play tug, though, is it builds a connection that I find you get more than with just fetch. And it makes the dog, you see how when I play with my dogs, they're always like on me. They're basically clutching me, hugging me with their paws. They want to be as close to me as possible with their toy. It's the same thing. It really builds a connection, I find. Now, if your dog is the way he is, listen, don't fight his nature. Work with what he is, but don't make the play super formal, because if you do, how much fun is he really going to have? The whole purpose of the play is to build the dog up, to build a connection with the dog, to make it fun, to give him a release from the stress of the repetitions and of the obedience and of having to concentrate, right? The play is his outlet. So make the play an outlet. Don't make it another obedience. And I'm going to talk more about that shortly. My neighbor used, okay. The second box really worked for his reactivity. Oh, Frank. I remember you, Frank. I'm glad it did. So, and that's a good thing. Just because, so what Frank's talking about is we actually used the double box, I think, on his dog, if I remember, if I'm thinking this is the correct Frank. You guys are going to get, you guys are only at week 2 in the training. I know you guys aren't at week 3 or week 4. If you're at week 3 or week 4, I'm going to immediately tell you, stop watching those videos, go back to week 1, week 2, and make sure your dog is perfect in week 1 and week 2 before you go to the more advanced videos. Frank's dog was one of those rare dogs, and there are rare dogs that they just do not perceive the e-collar in any, like they just barely perceive the e-collar. So his dog was, basically his dog could eat 90 on an e-collar, 100 on an e-collar, and like he would just kind of do that, right? And most dogs, if you do that, it's the end of their world. Believe me, if you give me 100 on an e-collar, it's not a pleasant experience. I'm definitely not going to just be minorly inconvenienced like Frank's dog was. But there are some dogs like that. And before everybody goes, oh, mine's like that too. No, your e-collar is probably too loose, okay? Make sure your e-collar is on snugly and that it's on properly and you're using good contact. So if you're using, if you have a German Shepherd or anything with a coat beyond like, you know, like if you have like a Pit Bull or a Doberman, of course you just need 1/2-inch contacts. Anything beyond that, you're going to need either 3/4-inch contacts or wings. Okay, so they sell winged contacts for e-collars, which you should probably have if your dog has a longer coat. So anyways, his dog was walking through that e-collar like it's nothing. And of course, this is with all the foundation and everything already done. And the dog was able to just kind of ignore the e-collar and do whatever it is that he wanted to do. So we added another box. So now there's 2 boxes instead of 1 box. And of course, then the dog all of a sudden found out that the e-collar has another level. Now, word to the wise. If you are training with the e-collar, I see a lot of people make the mistake of they stay on the low levels too long. They're constantly tickling and nagging the dog with the e-collar well past the point when they should have, you know, escalated and just gotten through it and shown the dog what is and what is not. For me, the e-collar, yes, in the first 4 to 5, in the first 4 weeks of training, you don't see a lot of escalation with me in the e-collar, because I want to really make sure the dog 100% understands everything. But I do escalate, right? And this is the difference between me and a lot of trainers on the internet anyways. I don't know what they are like in real life, but on the internet, there's a lot of trainers, they'll have you tickling that dog forever with an e-collar. I don't do that. Once he knows, he knows. I hold him accountable to what he knows, but I don't hold them accountable to what they don't know, right? So for me, the training process, especially in the beginning, is all about ensuring he knows. Okay, so I have pink hair, and I don't feel that way. Well, thank you, April. Like I said, I'm sure some of you have pink hair. What age are your dogs considered fully trained? I don't know, Susanna. It's a non-stop thing, but it's a non-stop thing, you know. Fully trained is subjective. It depends on what we're talking about. For pet, you know, pets are generally, for me, fully trained with all the things that they need to know how to do by the age of 7, 8 months. Come, sit down, heel, go on your bed, walk next to me, on the leash, off the leash, distractions, right? Now everything else is window dressing. Do I want to do sport training? You know, do I want to do something like Steve's dog where he's doing like the hunting training, the field training, that kind of stuff, tricks? You know, it can be a never-ending journey. So there's really no. I tell you this, I've gotten 8-year-old dogs here to train, and I've trained them. There's no such thing as a dog that's too old. They all learn. Now, wow, there's a thunderstorm out here, guys. So if I lose the internet, sorry about that. I'm warning you ahead of time. Yeah, so they all learn the same way. Of course, they can be a little bit slower sometimes. I don't have ED. I'm willing to prove it to you. Okay, be a leader. This is not the place for that nonsense stuff. Why did I read that? What's wrong with me? Should I use a bark collar for a dog that barks inside? Okay, let's talk about the bark collar. So, bark collars, the problem with bark collars is this. If you're planning on putting a foundation on your dog with the e-collar and using the e-collar for obedience, I don't like the bark collar. I won't use it. Not in the beginning, not unless I'm like, let's say if you're living in a condo, you're going to get kicked out because the time you leave, your dog's making noise. Okay, makes sense. You must use one. But if I can avoid it, especially if I have a young dog that I'm going to be training, I don't love to use it. Now, of course, there definitely has been instances when I have used it with particularly tenacious dogs that make a ton of noise. But I'll tell you this, right? If I'm home, I don't need a bark collar. I don't need a bark collar to correct my dog. I can correct them without an e-collar. I don't need any of those things in the house, right? The only thing that I really recommend the bark collar for is if you're not home, of course, and then, you know, your neighbors are complaining, you're going to get kicked out of your condo, of course, sure, then it makes sense. How old is too old to fully train? I have a German Shepherd that just turned 4. It's not too old, you can do it. Member of the online course, Hillary. How's Jax? So, that's a good question. A lot of constant circling. Sorry, guys. A lot of constant circling in the loose leash walking. No, I don't allow it. If the dog's doing solar system circles around me, I immediately block the dog and I keep him on one side. So I don't care what you do over here, but you're not going to do this circling around me. If he's constantly circling because he's so excited, then what I'll do is when he starts to go, let's say I'm holding the leash in my left hand and he starts to go to the right, and he starts to circle off to the right, I'll just block him, check him and stim him on the electric if you're at that place yet, which you should be if you're talking about Jax. And the second he goes off to the right and tries to circle me, I'll just block him with the leash. I'll be like, no, I'm not switching hands with this leash. It's going to stay in my left hand, and you're going to stay in this half circle over here. The second you start going into this half circle, block stim, and don't allow him to do that. Hope that helps. What foundation training does my GSD need before enrolling in your online course? None. What's the thought process of making the course accessible only for 12 months? Well, Dustin, it's not a lifetime membership, right? So the course price may change in the future, you know, just like everything changes. I assume that the average person in 2 to 3 months will have completed the course. So realistically, you're probably not going to need that membership longer than a year. Any online course you sign up for has a term limit. So a year seems to me to be much more than what the average person would need. And then at that point, you know, it's if you want to re-up and watch the videos again, then of course you will have to sign up again. But you shouldn't need to do that. Not if you do everything properly. I taught a 9-year-old girl to walk a course by playing. Oh my gosh, why do I be a leader? Can you get off my live stream? You seem like you're here to cause problems. We're here to train dogs. It's serious stuff. I signed up for your course. My working line GSD pup, 11 months, is doing great. However, he does not like bringing the toy to me. Why? Why? You must ask yourself, why doesn't he like bringing the toy to you? And usually what the answer is if the dog likes the toy, but he doesn't like bringing it to you, you are the problem, right? You're not fun. You're no fun. You're making him lose. Or you're not interesting. You're not making it fun to bring the toy to you. Either you're making him lose or you're just being boring. So when you step back and you stimulate the dog with the leash to bring you the toy, and let's say he really likes the toy and he wants that toy and he just has such an obsession with the toy, then I'm going to really try to take the toy away from him, not formally, but like by tugging really rough, right? So what I find a lot of people do is they either go too rough or they go too soft. So if I have a dog who's super intense, I'll go rough with them because they love that roughness. They love that play. They like feeling like it's a real competition. And if I have a dog who's a little bit softer, a little bit lower drive, then I'll just do a little bit, just a little touch. And then he's like, and then he like just even holds on a little bit. I let him win. Oh, you're a winner. And when you're always a winner, it's fun to play. Or when you're a winner, at least 90% of the time, it's fun to play, right? So I make it hard enough that it entertains them, but not so hard that it discourages them. What that is for your dog completely depends. So I will play with at least a 6-foot leash. I'll let him win. He takes it, and then the second he moves away from me, I give him a little tap, tap, tap on the lead. He comes back to me. We play a little bit again. If he tries to avoid me, it's okay. I'll step back again, tap, tap, tap. And when the toy comes close to my hand, I'll take the toy, depending on the dog, play, 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 let him win. And then, again, step back and pet the dog. I see a lot of dogs, they don't want to play with the owner, but they like the toy, right? And you must ask yourself the question, what am I doing wrong? What am I not doing? And there's no like, do X. It's not that. It's just like, you have to think, why is my dog having fun? Does he want to possess the toy? Or, you know, does he not even really like the toy? If I have a dog who doesn't really like the toy, I make it more about the interaction between me, him, and the toy. And if I have a dog who loves the toy, I make more of a competition between me and him for the toy. And he learns to love the competition because he loves the toy, but he learns that the toy is way more fun with me involved, right? That makes sense. So give your dog space to go away from you once he wins, but only for a second, then he must come back. As you see with my dogs, they come back and boom, they jump on me with the toy, and I allow them to jump on me. I'm not saying you have to do that, but you must promote that bringing the toy to you is the best thing he can do. There's nothing better. Member Otto, trained Logan the last 3 weeks. Should I use the beginning of the 6-week program as basically a refresher? Caitlin, how many weeks? You did 3 weeks. No. You want to start at, I will start for you at week three. Week 3. Opinions on Dobermans? Hi, has bought your course. Will the training from this course affect future competition? Yes, it will. That's a very good question. So, Hin, sorry man if I'm saying it wrong. Listen, I have a crazy name too, but yes, it will. So this is functional obedience, okay? All my competition dogs have this obedience, but it's completely different than sport obedience. Sport obedience is something completely different, okay? So what I say is, if you're gonna do like, so for instance, for me, with my competition dog, I put him on the right side. So all this obedience, this like regular, everyday functional obedience, the elite course, right? On the right side. The sport stuff, it's on the left side, different commands completely. So for instance, you know, I will do all his competition commands in German, right? Not because it's anything special, just because it sounds different and it is different, right? He understands the context of Platz is different than when he hears down. Down means take your time, get there. Platz means boom, Platz, right? I expect a much different performance in the competition work versus the regular everyday work. And he knows that because I've instilled that in him from day one. So if you want to do competition with your dog in the future, teach them everything. I say completely separate the contexts as much as possible. Different commands and different sides, right? For me, with the sport dog, generally I will train the sport work concurrently. So we'll do the sport work and then we'll do the regular stuff that you see in the elite course like more in a different time, if that makes sense. So that the dog is learning 2 different ways of being. Dogs are really good with context. You just have to set the frame. So for me, with my sport dog, he knows, you know, daddy's wearing his vest, I bring his special collar, we put the collar on, now it's sport work time, 15 minutes, whatever, it's done. I say, all done, and he leaves and he goes and it's all done. And then the rest of the time, there's no context for the elite obedience. I expect it at all times. If I say gauge come or gauge down, I expect it to happen. I don't need to set the frame for that. It's just all the time. So I hope this helps, Truck. It's not the same at all. In the online course, loose leash walking already pretty good, but not skipping steps have already conditioned the ECOLLAR. Okay, Trish, that is good. In online course, loose leash walking already pretty good. So I don't know, Trish, like, what are you asking me? Started with correcting with prong collar and redirected and bit me. Ah, well, Trish, you have a behavioral issue. That is something. Okay, so again, we're getting into the behavioral stuff here, guys, and this is, you're not gonna get the same thing from me just talking about it versus me. You know, next time we get a handler aggressive dog in, um, I will try and catch some video of it for my behavioral course. The problem with my behavioral course is of course getting. I don't get into a lot of the problems that you guys get into just simply because I know what I'm doing. So I know how to prevent the dog from redirecting and biting me. Let me say this to you, Trish. Why is your dog on a loose leash able to bite you? He should be 4 or 5 feet away. If he's next to you and you're popping him and he's redirecting you, not that that's not a problem, but I'm saying if you're doing the loose leash properly, he should be over there. So how is he able, unless he's literally turning around, running back to you and then biting you? Now, I don't think so. I mean, it's definitely possible, but I don't think so. Now, what I will say to this, so there are some dogs, especially when they get excited, right, aroused, whatever, they choose to deal with that arousal, especially if you do something to inhibit them by like correcting them for, whatever it is, pulling, barking, whatever, they will redirect. It's 100% a problem. All the time you see it, okay? What do you do with a behavior you don't like? You punish it. Right? For me, redirections, the second I see that the dog redirects, it depends on the dog. A lot of dogs that redirect, it's a brat behavior. It's a little bratty behavior. They're really not about that life. They've just learned to scare mommy by, doing one of those, right? And maybe put their teeth on you, they break your skin a little bit. And then there's the ones they put you in the hospital. And they really mean it, and they're coming for your soul, okay? Well, there's two different types of redirect, all right? So what I will say is with the ones that are kind of halfway, so to speak, I'll bonk that dog or I'll catch him with the other end of the leash, right? So if I give him a correction and he goes, no, bang, right? Oh my God, that's never happened before, right? And then I'll act like nothing happened. And then off we go, And then I do it again, and if he comes again, man, I blitz him. It's hard, it's fast, it's completely out of the second if he goes like that on me, no, bang, and I catch him. Again, he's not next to me though. I do my loose leash walking away, right? The dog's 5-6 feet away from me. So I have never personally encountered, well, I shouldn't say that. I've had about maybe 1 or 2 of them that would actually come back, but not over the loose leash walking. This is with dog aggression and stuff like this, right? So I would say your dog is probably much too close to you. You're holding your dog too tight. Give your dog more freedom and space. Again, I got to do a course on bonking, all this type of stuff, but suffice to say, if you're conditioning the e-collar, it's actually a lot easier than the prong collar because you're conditioning the e-collar. You're not using it to punish the dog in the beginning, okay? Go through all the conditioning, and then I'll have a little trick for you once you're done all your e-collar conditioning. But for now, if you pop him on the leash and he tries to come back for you, you rain thunder down upon him and make it really clear to him, if you do this to me, your life will end. Not literally, but figuratively in his head, of course, right? And then once he has some respect for you, you'll see he doesn't do that anymore. Hope that helps. Can I use shock mode on a dog charging wild animals' cars? Well, if you haven't taken my course, no. If you haven't conditioned the dog, no. How about that? How can I make my dog more reliable to do commands well? Okay. Guys, if you haven't... Elite member, repetitions, time of training, recommend if any, and how often? Okay. So, Melvin, the thing with the elite training is it's every day, right? It's every day and it's throughout your life. So the dog shouldn't be pulling you, ever. There's never like a time where like, okay, I'm going to go out and work on loose leash walking. It's like, no. From the moment that you watch that video, your dog never pulls you again in his life, right? When you train, yes, there are some things you have to train. Of course, you have to train the heeling and the sit and the down and the place command, all this type of stuff. But for me, like once I teach him the place command, it takes me one session, okay? Now it's enforced the rest of his life. So if I'm using it I'm using it. This is training for every day. So once the dog knows, within reason, of course, I enforce it, and that's it. So, right now, when I take my dog, I don't do this stuff. Like, I don't like work on my elite obedience with my regular, like with my sport dog Gauge, for instance. I don't do that because it's every day. If I take him out, I call him, he comes. I tell him to heel, he does. If he doesn't heel, of course, I'll correct him, but he heels. He downs, he sits, he does all these things because I use it every day, and that's the whole idea of the course. If you're training something, generally, we don't recommend a training session last longer than 10-15 minutes, okay, if you're working on something specifically. And don't, remember what I say, the rule number one, don't drill things. Like don't be like, okay, I'm going to work on heel and that's all I'm going to do for 15 minutes. Don't do that. Because that robotic, repetitive drill, it breaks their brain, man. They don't like it. It's not fun for them. Make things fun, break it up, do something. You can make something, like let's say, okay, I'm going to work on healing in this session. I'll make healing the primary thing we do, but then I'll break it up and do some other different things in between the healing reps, just to kind of open the dog's mind a little bit. I'll play with him. We'll do other things. We're not just going to go heel for all 15 minutes of it. The other thing too is when you take your dog for his 2 times daily walks, which I'm sure you guys all do because you're responsible and caring dog owners. When you take your dog for his twice daily walks, of course you must, incorporate the healing, the stuff that he knows. So if my dog knows how to lie down and he knows how to loose leash walk, let's just say he knows those 2 things. Okay, well, when I walk him for the 30 minutes that he's going for a walk, well, he's going to walk on a loose leash, and I might throw a couple downs in there, right? Just to keep him sharp, keep him on the ball. So I hope that makes sense to you. It's not about saying, okay, I got to train 1 hour every day. No, you practice everything and you work, like when you're training him new behaviors, you work on those new behaviors piece by piece. But once the dog knows, it's every day. You just use it every day because it's training for real life. That's the whole purpose of the course. Okay. Sorry guys, I'm just looking for other members. Members get priority. Jack up the fetch. Yes, Steve. You'll get it, man. I want to see videos of your dog soon. I'm getting a AKC. Yeah, sorry. At 8 weeks, the breeder says it will be toilet trained. Yeah, I don't really know any puppy that's toilet trained completely at 8 weeks, but it's possible. Alexander Wang. Well, we're glad to have your dog, man. I look forward to it. Can my 5-month-old... You know what, Henry? Your 5-month-old puppy, wait till he's 6 months, then take him through the course. It is a little bit on the mentally. So I like to let puppies be puppies as much as possible. Not that a 6-month old dog isn't a puppy, but it's a bit of an older puppy, and they have some mental capacity. Native Turpy, I have a question. Are the training videos done at your own pace? They are, but I do recommend you don't draw it out too much because the dog, of course, might forget, right? You want to keep momentum. You start and you just build momentum and you just roll 1 week into another week and it all comes. JJ Jordan, elite member, on week 2, when doing the structured play with a tug, ball, or rope, he gets excited and doesn't bite where he should. Yes. Okay. So, here's the thing with that, guys. So if he's getting, if the dog is targeting wrong parts of your, the ball, I thought I did a video on this. So are you sure you watched my structured play video? Because I'm pretty sure I did cover this. So if I'm holding the ball, and let's say the ball's dangling down and the ball is actually here and the rope is here and he's going for my hand. It's actually quite a common problem, okay? As the dog comes, so let's say I say chip and I hold the ball and he goes up, guess what I'm going to do? I drop the ball. And now after a while he starts to, not when he bites, but of course right before he bites I will open my hand and drop the ball. And of course he's going to retarget the moving object and he's going to go down. The same thing with the tug, right? And I'll do this a bunch of times until the dog always expects me to either drop the ball or to throw the ball. Doesn't have to be far, just a short distance. And then the dog learns, he just starts to think only about the big piece of rubber and not about the string or my hand. Now, of course, sometimes they will grab the string and whatever, no problem, right? If they grab my hand, here's the thing. If you can avoid letting go, hold the ball. They grab my hand, I go, ah, right? Usually at that point, the dog has some respect for you. He will, of course, let go and then grab the string or the good boy, and then we play. And you just make it clear. Puppies get exuberant, you know, they miss stuff, and it's easy for them to target your hand versus the ball. So in the beginning, I usually, as they come for it, I'll drop it. If I'm holding a tug, I won't do this with the tug. I'll hold it really clearly like that, so the dog has a clear bite surface to target. Then if he hits my hand, hey, knock that off. Don't be impolite. Some dogs will do it on purpose to be a little bit of a jerk. So you will correct that. But if it's an accident, it's an accident, right? I had a hole in my hand recently because Gage thought that my hand was the ball. By accident, he grabbed my hand, and he actually his canine went in pretty far. Now, of course, most of you don't have a Gage, so that's not really going to be a severe problem for you. Most dogs just kind of half-ass nibble your hand a little bit. Hillary, I think I answered your question. I've gotten my reactive dog to be able to walk past other dogs, but there is a ton of anxiety as she's walking past. Okay, so Alexander, should I correct the whining? Again, you know, we're going into the behavioral stuff. So it depends on what the whining is, right? Is the whining, as the dog goes past, is she screaming basically at the other dog and staring at it? Yeah, I will correct that, right? Or is she just kind of generally like panicking and whining? Then I'll slow everything down. I'll make her walk slow, calm down, relax, right? And praise her when she does well, reward her, so on and so forth. Okay, so depends what it is. If it's just, she's just, okay, I can't freak out, but I'm going to stare at that dog and whine and scream. Yeah, definitely, this will be punished. You're not allowed to do that, right? But if it's just an overall like, right? Okay, calm down. It's okay. Daddy's here. Relax, you know. And you know, I will try to get her as calm as I can, reward her, build her up, make her believe nothing bad is going to happen, and then everything will be okay. Elite member, Mohammed. My wife doesn't want the European Doberman in the house anymore. I'm thinking about getting a good-sized kennel for outside. Well, Mohammed, listen, the problem depends where you live. If you live somewhere where it's cold, Dobermans don't do well in the cold. I will say this, if you keep your dog in the kennel, you must spend more time with him. Otherwise, they go crazy in there. Just like a person, if you keep them in solitary confinement, right? You must make time every day, go out with the dog. What I will say with the wife, and usually, listen, Mohammed, you're probably a Muslim guy, right? And I know that in our culture, the dogs in the house is a big problem, okay? I will always say confine the dog to a specific area in the home. So for me, for instance, my dogs are only allowed on the main floor of the house. I never allow them on my carpets. They don't go upstairs. They don't go on the furniture. And in the house, I don't let them be crazy. They're always in one space. So maybe make a nice bed for him in the corner in your living room, somewhere like this, and keep him there and say, listen, you know, sweetheart, the dog's not going to be all over the house anymore. He's going to be in this specific corner. You know, I'll clean up after him. Or scratch that. You know what? We'll clean up after him. And, you know, it's not going to be a problem. If possible, keep him in the house with you, because I do think, you know, unless you're somebody that's really active with the dog, keeping them in a kennel and just leaving them in there day in and day out, it's not good for them. If your dog, okay. Let me see here, guys. Sorry. You know what? Somebody sent me the ZWP trials, and I watched a few videos. I didn't catch the Bully Vision dog. But I'm sure they did well. Those ZWP trials are something else. Okay, Josh, thanks for the advice with the e-collar. I've been afraid to go too high. I hate hearing the yelp. Your husky, listen, Josh, huskies yelp on like 2 on the e-collar. They yelp when you grab their collar. I've had huskies that literally, when I clip a leash on their flat collar, they just start screaming. Sorry, guys. I'm just going through these comments. It's not that I don't want to answer all your comments, but of course I have to give priority to the members. I probably shouldn't do this on my phone because it's a little bit awkward. Do I have any experience with Caucasian Shepherds? Yes, I do. I've trained quite a few of them by now. I say quite a few of them in relation to how many there actually are in Canada. You want an obedient dog? You want a nice social dog? You want a dog that the family can pet and that you can take to the dog park and, an easy dog to live with? Don't get a Caucasian Shepherd. Look up what they're for and decide if those traits are something you actually want and are prepared to live with. Trook. Ah, there you go. Okay. Trish, yes, that's what he did. Okay, Trish. All right. We're getting into, like I said, it's different territory dealing with handler aggression. It's quite easy to deal with it, but again, it's not really what I've done in my course, and I don't like talking about things I haven't demonstrated. Let's see here. My black lab working line is over the top. How can I calm the excitement down? You calm the excitement down, Barry's wildlife, by not trying to burn his energy. Okay, so a lot of people with the high drive, high energy, excitable dogs, their solution to this problem is to try and exercise the problem away. I'm not saying that exercise is important, it is, but you actually structure the problem away. I have plenty of high drive dogs, Malinois, German Shepherds. These are dogs that are just built with tons of drive and energy. I don't have problems with them. You know why? Because I always provide structure. In the home, they're on the bed. There's none of this crazy running around the house. You go on your place, you stay on your place. Outside, I break their little brains with some structure, right? So the walk is not just like drag me around and we'll go to the dog park and I'll unclip you and you'll run around and I'll wait half an hour, hope you're tired, to clip you back up and take you home. That's what most people do, or I'll throw the ball for you a bunch of times. That's not the solution, right? It's not that you can't take your dog on hikes and it's not that you can't play fetch with your dog. You should do all those things. But the solution is actually making them do things on the walk. So you can't pull me on the walk. Sit, down, heel, sit, down. Okay, hold that down 5 minutes. All right, let's loose leash walk again. Okay, free time, but come when you're called, right? You make the walk fun for him, but also structured. You're going to play ball with me, but you're going to play ball properly. You're going to go to the ball. You're going to bring the ball. We're going to tug a little bit. I'm going to let you win. Then I'm going to make you let go. Then you're going to lie down. Then I'm going to throw it again. You make rules, and those rules give them something to do with all that. Okay? So that's what you do. And in your house, you definitely don't let them run around. And if they're on the bed, whining and crying, you must correct that. It's never allowed. No, go to the dog, correct the dog for that behavior. So the solution for high drive dogs is structure. Elite member here, Douglas. Would love to hear any tips you have for bringing a puppy into the home. So if you're bringing a puppy into the home with an adult dog, do not let your puppy harass that dog. That's rule number one, okay? A lot of people allow the puppy to go and jump on the older dog and harass it and bite it and all this kind of stuff. Heidi, I skipped you? Okay, sorry. Let me finish with Douglas and then I'll go back. Don't force the older dog to be in a position where he has to, discipline the puppy. Because this can cause problems depending on the dog. Now, if you have an older dog who's really even keel and, is trustworthy and can do it, you can risk it a little bit, but I don't like to do that. I take care of all the discipline in the household. I don't put my dog in that situation. So Heidi, can you ask your question again? I'm sorry, I just don't want to scroll back up and look for you. I don't know where you were. Yeah, well, when I correct my other reactive, how many reactive dogs do you have, Alexander? It seems to arouse him and he becomes more reactive. So what did you do? Did you punish your dog? Did you correct him? Or did you negatively reinforce the reactivity? Because remember, the dog tells you what you did. You don't get to decide. You didn't correct him if he became more reactive. You negatively reinforced the reactivity. You made it worse. So the solution to that is generally you're being too light, number one, or for that dog, the form of correction is not appropriate. You must use another form of correction, which again, we're getting outside of course material here, guys, and I don't want to go more into it. Reactive dogs is a different thing. When is it kind of late to desensitize a puppy to different sounds and environments? My puppy is 9 months. No, you can still do it. Bert, if it ain't biblical, your dog might redirect. Well, they might still redirect on a biblical one, but you get even more biblical for the redirection. This is not a protection. We're not talking about protection, Zach, so I'm not going to go into that. There you go, Caitlin. It's working. E-collar recommendations for Schutzen. Well, ask the people that you train with, Mercedes. It depends. Everybody has their own way. Personally, for me, I've done the expensive Martin systems, but I don't like them that much, or the one that I had anyway. So I went back to the e-collar technologies is what I use with the finger kick. I really like that. Dog training. That's an awesome YouTube name. Thanks, buddy. Mohammed, can I Shanice on a future GSD? Well, yeah, I do happen to have 2 litters of puppies. Look us up. You don't need to look us up. Send me an email. I'm looking for personal protection dog, not a sport dog. Yeah, I have different bloodlines, but the idea that they're different is nonsensical. They come from the same lines. Sport dogs, police dogs, personal protection dogs, they all come from the same. They can be all 3 of those things simultaneously. It's not like necessarily different lines. Berserk. No, it's not a bad idea, but if you're going to keep your dogs outside, you better give them the stimulation that they need and the structure. Everett, any tips for dogs that, man, you guys with your reactive dogs, for a friendly dog that's reactive, so Everett, if your dog wants so badly to go to another dog, what's he going to do? He's going to pull you, and you're going to punish him for the pulling. And then all of a sudden, you're going to see that you take the wind out of his sails a little bit. And then if he's not pulling, and he's still screaming, okay, no, and you will punish him for the screaming. It's not allowed, right? And then, again, that 2-finger rule. I don't care if there's another dog over there. Here's the other thing. Stop allowing your dog to go to other dogs and self-satisfy, right? He thinks that going to that other dog is going to be the best thing that's ever happened to him, if he is the way that you're describing. So stop allowing him to self-satisfy with other dogs. Teach him that he can run into as many dogs as possible. He's not going to meet any of them. There's going to be no meetings. There's no fun with the other dogs. The fun's all over here. There's no fun over there. Don't be an idiot. Not you, the dog. Malwar German Shepherd. Depends what you want to do. Let's see here, guys. A lot of people cluttering it up. Sorry, guys. I'm just trying to get to all the member questions. Do you import German Shepherds? We can do it, it depends. But Mohammed, you just told me your wife is scared of the Doberman. Why would I sell you a dog? Believe me, the dogs I have are a lot scarier than your Doberman. Do you have plans for future litter? Yes, Caitlin. I always have plans for future litters. If you want to compete, I also do co-ownerships for local people that are interested in competition and working dogs, because I always have a few females that I want to keep back. I don't want to sell, but I want to place them in working homes. She goes ballistic like she's going to kill it. Doesn't do that with other dogs. Heidi, that's really a difficult question for me to answer because I don't know what you're talking about. She goes ballistic. like she's gonna kill it. What are you talking about specifically? But again, it sounds like we're getting into behavioral issues. Look, guys, for me, when I get dogs that have behavioral problems, which is really a lot of the dogs that we get here, they're reactive, right? Most of them. They come out of the car, they're barking at everything and everybody. Listen, I fixed the problem in about 10 minutes. Okay? Listen, dude, don't be reactive around me. It's not okay. Right? And then I take the dog through the whole training course. And then I take them in public and I fix the problem again in public. And I say, hey, dude, guess what? I know you learned to be good at the farm, but now you got to be good out here too. And then he's like, okay, well, rules are rules. I'll be good. Okay? And it doesn't mean that there's not something that won't stimulate the reactivity in the future ever. But as long as you're there and you're consistent and you say, hey, dude, I really mean it. Don't be reactive. And you mean it. Don't just say, please stop. No, no, don't do that. If you do that around me, I'll be quite upset. And if I'm quite upset, I will physically discipline you in a way that I know is aversive to you. So don't do that. I'm glad that it's helped you guys. I am in Canada. Heidi, I don't understand. I'm getting to everybody. I don't know why I'm not getting to you. Tips for dealing with a dominant 10-month-old GSD. Well, I doubt he's attacking you, Kelly, if you're not in the hospital, and he's 10 months old. He's not dominant. He's a brat because you're allowing him to be a brat. Don't allow him to be a brat. I'm going to school to learn how to train protection dogs next year. Well, if you're going to school, you ask them. Okay, guys, so it looks like I've gotten to the end here. Yeah, I don't know about any schools to become a protection dog trainer, Jess, unless you're going and like signing up with a trainer that's actually going to like that actually offers that course or whatever. And if you do, then you better ask him because I'm sure he'll want to sell you a puppy. Suffice to say, confident and drivey. That's about all I can tell you. And also, Jess, just a little FYI, you're not going to make any money as a protection dog trainer. It's fun, but you're not going to make any money. You make money training pets if you want to make money training dogs, because 99.9% of the dogs on this planet are pets. All right, guys. So this was a quick check-in on our online course. I hope this helped. I didn't expect a lot of you guys had gone really far into it yet. I know a lot of you guys seem to be struggling with reactivity. And reactivity it's a tough one to do an online course on because all reactive dogs are a little bit different. It's one of those ones where, look, we deal with reactive dogs on the daily here, but it's a little bit different and it's kind of hard to show it online and like I hope I'm making sense, but basically at the end of the day, I positively punish any reactive behavior. I don't allow it, and I reward the dog choosing to find alternative behaviors. I don't hide the dog. I will never hide the dog. I won't be like, oh no, sit, look at me. I don't do any of that nonsense. Go be free, make your choices. Don't pull me on the leash and don't react. If you do either of those things, then, I will be very unhappy with you. And he quickly learns that dichotomy. And then I take him around the thing that he's reactive to multiple times. So he learns it's not that dog, it's you. It's you. And we kind of talked about this a little bit last time in my other live, because everybody seems to have reactive dogs these days. And guys, your dogs aren't reactive, right? Like my dog Gage, he's a reactive dog. My dog Dizzy, she's a reactive dog, right? Like they're naturally reactive to the environment, to new people, whatever. But they know when daddy says quiet, you must be quiet and you're not allowed to be reactive. And then we don't have a problem, right? So I hope this helps you guys. Thank you for signing up for my course, those of you that did. And again, it seems that we are really going to have to get going on a behavior modification course. Oh, thanks, Mitchell. Extra fee to import to the USA. Well, listen, shipping is always expensive, especially in these COVID times, right? So just to get your dog across the border, probably 600 Canadian. Okay. Highland School for Dog Trainers. Don't know any of them. Don't know them, but you could be in a different country. Sure, Caitlin, send me an email. We'll talk. Do you have plans for a Shield K9 T-shirt? You know what? Kelly, if I get online courses, can I ask you questions? Well, you can ask me questions on the lives. Um, let's see here. Yes, you're right, Berserk. I think a lot of the reactiveness is due to not being consistent. Look, guys, I know, yeah, I should sell you some merch, right? Um, Truk. Okay, so the, the shirts, we'll get to them. You know, at some point, I'm gonna. I haven't even got my training gear up. You know, the balls and all that stuff. I was planning on selling that. I just haven't got the time to get it all up. I'm really right now. What I'm looking to is the puppy course, and that's what I'm really trying to get to. The competition obedience course, I'm probably going to somewhat shoot concurrently with the puppy course. But both of those are going to be the next thing that I really get into. So, what biblical discipline is for my Mel. This is the problem with YouTube. You know, like I said, I don't like to say do X, do Y, do Z, because it's like I'm not there, and I don't know what you're going to do, and I don't know what your timing is like, right? So, Megan, I can't tell you do X or do Y because you might do it wrong, right? I'll give you an example. This. You can make your dog worse by doing this, or you can make your dog better by doing this. Depends on your timing, depends how you do it, depends how hard you do it, depends on your reading of the dog, so on and so forth. So sometimes you can't fix things online. Sometimes you have to go to a trainer, and a trainer that knows what they're doing. The good news is in North America, you know, there are trainers available that know what they're doing. In Europe, I'm sure there's some places where there's trainers available, and then you know, the rest of the world, it does get a little bit rough. It does get a little bit rough. So I'm going to try to make a course to help those of you struggling with the reactivity. But again, look, you know, and the problem is too, it's like, look, I could show you me correcting a dog, like, and I'll make a biblical correction, and I can show you me doing it. But look, we all know what's going to happen, right? I'm going to do that. Some idiot is going to cut the correction out, or maybe if I do a series of corrections on different dogs, they'll cut all the corrections and they'll string them all together and be like, look at the terrible guy has this. And of course, you know, I'll just ignore it for the nonsense that it is, but that's what's going to happen. It's happened already multiple times to other trainers for various different things. People cutting just a correction out of context and posting it. And it, you know, it doesn't really do anything, but at the same time, it's like, you know, I got to think about it. I got to think about how I'm going to present the information in a way that you guys aren't going to screw up and that people aren't going to be able to take it as out of context as I'm sure they're already going to try to take it. Because you have to understand, you know, the more things get popular, the more people are going to target you. The more people know about Has and Shield K9, believe me, they're coming for me. And I know they are, and it's okay. Come, I'm ready for you. But at the same time, you know, I'm not going to ask for trouble that I don't have, if that makes any sense. So I want to make these videos to help you guys, but I have to think about how to do them properly in a way that it's hard for you guys to screw up, if that makes sense. Okay, guys. Sergey, for the second e-collar training, do you keep the dog at 9 the whole time? It depends. If I say I'm switching back to, I can't remember exactly that video, but if I'm so for the second e-collar training, for sure, I would be going back and forth, right? So I will call the dog and I will tap him. Now, if I'm at like 9 and he's ignoring me, I'm not afraid to go up a little bit to like 13, 14, whatever. But if I have to go to 50, probably a little bit too high, I'll still use the leash to help. But yeah, when I say I'm going back to conditioning, then I'm going back to that low level. And when I say that I'm going to give him a chance, then of course, yes, I will go up a little bit, but not too high, not in the beginning. If you go too high too fast, you can create panic in the dog. Okay, guys. Unless there's any more members asking me questions here, I really appreciate all you guys watching. Um, bu- 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 bu. Dominant dog collar. Do you know how to use it? If he puts your arm in his mouth, but he doesn't put you in the hospital, then he's just being a brat. I wouldn't use an e-collar for that behavior. I would just whack him upside the head for that nonsense. Don't put my arm in your mouth. Armor Canine. Thanks, brother. It's not that I'm worried, eh? Like, I know I'm going to release these videos and I'm going to write a book on this stuff too. It's just, I have to do it in the right way because not only do I know, listen, at the end of the day, people are going to do what they're going to do. It is what it is, whatever, I'll put my results up against anybody's and I'll let the dogs do the talking, so to speak. It's not that, it's that when I'm talking about putting big pressure on a dog, like when we're saying biblical correction, I have to be careful how I do it because I don't want the wrong person to do it the wrong way because I have an ethical responsibility to the dog as well. Even dogs that misbehave. Yeah, I'm ruthless when I correct, but I'm ruthless in a fair way, right? If that makes sense. You have to always take what does this dog. Remember, I always view dog, for me, it really helps me. I view the dogs, especially the ones that are struggling, as mentally disabled children. I view them the same way. And it really does help. It gives you another level of patience because you realize, yeah, he's doing this really bad thing, but he probably doesn't really even know why he's doing it. And I need to help him. And yes, sometimes it involves a harsh physical correction, but make it fair. Make it fair. Okay, guys. Yes. So thank you very much for watching. Tune in. I'll announce another live. Maybe like 2 weeks we'll do another live.